Welcome back to the education stage for Cultivating a Community of New Riders. This session is sponsored by eBay Motors. Visit the e-commerce center at booth 3073. Ladies and gentlemen, here today to get us started, please welcome back to the stage the founder and CEO of HEROHUB, Jared Burt.
Thank you. Welcome back for our second session today with Nash Powersports. We've got to bring back up Bill, Matt, and Brian again, and we've got a lot of fun things to talk about. We saved some of the best for last today with them, so I've got some doozies of questions to go through with them. Cultivating a community of riders is something that I had to figure out early on in my dealership. I remember we had just picked up the Suzuki line to add to Polaris, and one of my first motorcycle sales was a Suzuki Marauder. Do you guys remember the Marauder when it was called the Marauder? And I did everything really well. I demonstrated the features and the benefits of the motorcycle with the customer. He was impressed with these features, and I obtained a commitment to buy, and I got him into some financing through Suzuki. Suzuki had some low interest financing available, and I closed the deal. And we went out to take delivery, and I realized, I don't know if he has his helmet here. So we talked about, do you have your helmet, or do you need to buy one? And I sold him a helmet. I thought, man, I'm batting $1 million because I sold a motorcycle, I sold a helmet. And we go out to present the motorcycle to him, and I said, are you familiar with the operations and controls? Assumptively. And he said, I've never rode a motorcycle. And that was the first motorcycle I sold. So we had to rewind and kind of take about 10 steps back, and I had to redo that. So cultivating a community of riders can go bad when we have a well-executed sales process that turns out with unintended consequences. In a study performed with dealerships, we looked at when a customer comes into a dealership and says, hey, I'm thinking about getting into motorcycling. The study that HEROHUB performed this last year showed that 1 in 10 dealership salespeople try selling a motorcycle without recognizing a future or lapsed rider that needs support. 1 in 10 of those recognizes that as a future rider and helps mentoring and asking questions. 9 out of 10 are just going through and doing exactly what I did. So back when I was a young man, my granddad wanted me to be a cowboy. I was out in the pasture moving irrigation pipe, and he said, hey, would you like to ride a horse? And I said, yeah, I'd like to learn how to ride a horse because I wanted to get out of the chores. And so he said, well, those damn Nikes aren't going to work. And so he loaded me up in his pickup truck and drove me into town. We went to a little veterinarian store that also sold saddles and cowboy boots, and he bought me a pair of cowboy boots. And we went back, and over that next week, he taught me how to care for the horse, how to put on a bridle, how to saddle the horse, and groom the horse. And then eventually how to ride the horse. And it didn't work. I didn't become a cowboy. But that process, as I think back about the experience of having a mentor, having a family member that walked me through that process, it's not much different than what's needed to learn how to ride a motorcycle. And so we need to ask ourselves the question, well, whose job is that if a future rider that is inspired to get into motorcycling, if they don't have a friend or a family member that's going to provide that, a granddad that taught me how to be a cowboy, they don't have that for their journey to ridership, then who's going to help mentor them and walk them through that? And what is your dealership's role in that process? Ride with Us and Cinnamon Kern's on stage introduced Ride With Us. RideWithUs.com is certainly a website, but Ride With Us is much more than a website that's consumer-facing. It's an industry-wide market expansion initiative. And when we talk about industry-wide, I hope we're thinking about dealers, that dealers are a huge part of that. Ride With Us is rider-focused. It focuses on the rider's needs to enable their journey to rider, and ultimately so that they can become part of a connected community. Ride With Us enables future and lapsed riders to experience the joy of motorcycling on their journey. So what role do dealerships play then? And if you remember back a couple years ago, when we were in Columbus, the journey was defined as inspire, explore, engage, and integrate. And these are natural stages that we go through to become a rider. We're inspired, and then we explore, we learn more about it, we engage, we actually take a first ride, and I love what MIC is doing with Moto Intros, giving people a 30-minute experience to test it out, to shift through the gears, to pull in a clutch, and then buy or rent a motorcycle, and then finally to integrate, find places to ride and who to ride with, which is so important. But what is the dealership's role in all of this? One of the things that we've done is we've studied what great dealers do really well to bring in new entrants into riding is that they mentor. So I wanted to share with you what we found. Now, process is really preceded by culture, and there's a lot of great dealerships that just have a culture of mentorship, and they just seem to inherently know how to help a future rider become a rider. But one of the things that we found in common with all these great dealerships is that they generally followed this process of mentorship. And the cool thing is it really integrates. It's just an addendum to any current sales process that's implemented in a dealership. And so the first step, when you're qualifying, and this could be the qualifying stage with your customer, you want to identify or recognize that your customer is a future or lapsed rider, or if they're a rider. Do they own a bike already? Well, they're a rider, so this step is not necessary. But if they're future or lapsed, there's some other things that we want to do. So identifying that. The second is to inquire, to get a little better understanding of their story. What inspired them to get into motorcycling? Why are they there today? What is it that drove them to go to the next step and explore? After you kind of hear their story and get an understanding, helping them determine their personalized journey to motorcycling. And some of this has to do with, back to their inspiration. What do they want to accomplish? What is their why? And then finally, encouraging with support and follow-up, because depending on where they're at in the journey, there's some hurdles to get through. There's some barriers, and a lot are going to need coaching, formal training, working on their motorcycle endorsement, and then picking out that right motorcycle. So as dealers consider where do we fit in, how do we get them from inspire to explore? We can take them on a tour of the dealership to help them see the gear, see the service department and the support that's available for them when they become a rider. The Moto Intro, gear orientation. From explore to engage, there's opportunity to have, I've talked to dealerships that do ride with experiences. You're set up with a local rider coach or school and can refer them to a basic rider coach or provide other coaching. And then finally, integrate. To go from engage to integrate, they join weekly rides You might have a dealership ride or know about a club-sponsored ride. Show them the advanced rider courses that are available in the community, recommended local ride routes, and then there's apps available now that they can connect with other riders, or you might have social media where riders congregate to plan rides as well. So to talk more about how do we cultivate a community of riders, I'd like to bring back on stage the Nash Powersports team. Bill, Matt, and Brian, come on back up. Let's put our hands together for Nash Powersports. All right, I promised in our last session, one of the questions that we didn't get to was, first off, Bill, with your history with Ride Now Powersports, you built a powersports dealer network, an empire, and then you left and started your own thing. So we're wondering why did you decide to do that? At that stage in your career and life, and what was important for you for that next step?
Yeah, I started there in '93 and grew it from 2 stores to approximately 39 stores when I left. But I was traveling a ton. I wasn't getting to see my kids enough. I wasn't getting to see my family enough. And I had gotten a phone call from one of the old employees that I'd worked with at the Apache stores in Phoenix, and had an opportunity to buy the stores that I really got my start in. I'd worked in a store before in a parts department, but I went from a lot tech to a sales manager at that location, and it felt like I went home. And, it created some opportunities for some key employees of mine that I had lost through the years in Ride Now. And, I love coming to shows like this because I get to see a lot of my old employees that have moved on and are doing their own thing or doing a lot more than they were when they were working for me. And that's what makes this industry so special.
That's really cool. And with Nash Powersports, you've got multiple rooftops. How many rooftops do you have now?
Under the Nash Powersports, there's 5. There's the 3 in Phoenix, 2 in Auburn, Washington, and then I had a Harley store that I'd had for a while, like 11 years now, in Bend, Oregon.
So tell us do you have a favorite dealership that you like to be at the most? What's your flagship or your favorite dealership?
I live at the Phoenix store primarily because that's where all the customs and stuff are getting done, and it's the closest one to my house, not gonna lie.
That's like asking who's your favorite kid. That's like a loaded question. Jeez.
We won't tell anybody. We won't tell the staff at the other locations.
I love going to the other stores, but when it comes down to it, that was the store I started at. And, we moved it in 2018 from a 8,000 square foot facility that you couldn't put a side-by-side on the showroom floor because there were no doors big enough to do it, to a 45,000 square foot facility that, I watched that thing explode, and we helped it explode back to where it was when I left in the early 90s.
I was going to say that original store was like a clown car. It amazed me every morning when I went out there how many vehicles actually came out of that store and they had to put them back in every single night. Pretty darn amazing.
Impressive. All right, so what's it like? Everyone's wondering, what's it like competing against Ride now that you're on the other side?
They're tough, They know how to do business. They might have a couple pretty well-trained general managers, if I say so myself. And, almost every one of those general managers that they have working for them were hired between the ages of 18 and 22 in sales positions, parts positions, lot tech positions, you name it. I never hired an outside general manager at Ride Now the entire time I worked there. Everybody grew up through the ranks because they knew what our culture was and they knew what we wanted to get done.
That's awesome. So now what's next for Nash Powersports?
I'm going to start playing a lot more golf. I'm going to start doing a lot more fishing. And the guys that I got working for me, which was another one of the reasons I left, I wanted more skin in the game from my employees. I didn't control that situation at Ride Now, but I absolutely control it here. And, you know, I didn't feel that you had to be a general manager of a dealership to have ownership in a store. Matt's my marketing director, is partners in 3 of the locations. Brian's my operations director. He's partners in 3 of the locations. My controller gets paid off the net at the end of the year for a nice little bonus. But, you know, she busts her butt. And you can only, I don't know, I guess you can only spend so much money. I don't want big yachts. I don't want Learjets. I want to go have a good time.
You answered my next question, which is if dealers here in the audience are thinking about adding other locations, what do you recommend?
Put a minority owner in that has the same thought processes and give a shit that you do. Because if you don't, it's going to fail. But they'll try harder because they've got some skin in the game and they get rewarded from it. I know a lot of general managers and owners will give people pay cuts when they think they made too much money. I'm not that guy. I can tell you firsthand, I received probably more pay cuts over my 24 years at Ride Now than any person has ever received in their entire life. But I never made less money than I did the previous year because my personal goal was to make more than I did the personal year until, of course, 08 hit, and then, yeesh.
That was tough. Let's not dive into that right now. I want to shift gears a little bit. I'd like to hear from Matt on, you know, in today's age, what is it that attracts new entrants to power sports? What trends are you seeing?
A lot of it is just the experience, because everybody's out for an experience these days, and getting new riders into the community, COVID actually helped that because they spent so much time at home and realized what are some of the things that we have the ability to do that we're not restricted. Well, that's getting outdoors. And then obviously we had to capitalize on that, which deals with SEM and marketing efforts and stuff like that. So you shotgun approach and get the funnel in, but it is the experience and what you can actually do with the entire family. It's not just a single rider sport. It can be, but with a lot of the side-by-sides and things like that, you take your entire family out and it's fun and it's like your staycation. So it's good for all.
Brian, are there certain products or product lines that you feel like are more successful right now that are helping you attract or bring in those new entrants, or is it everything?
As Matt said, I think it's the interest with our current state of the country. A lot of it was interest just to get outside. So luxury for us in Arizona, 365-day riding season. You can literally go from your house 5 miles, pull over in a desert with your camper and a couple ATVs for your kids, and you're away from people with COVID and having fun and camping outside. So a lot of it was just people getting out. I mean, the new entrants we put in this marketplace, or our marketplace anyways, both in Washington and in Phoenix, is just unbelievable. And one of the things that I think we've done a really good job is educating our staff that these aren't usually when somebody walks in and buys a $9.99 cheap Chinese dirt bike, you think, oh, this is guys a one and done. These are customers. These are building the foundation for our business for the next 5, 7, 12 years. So when we're selling 100, 125 ATVs in a month time, or in a year's time, or in a month's time, you got to look at those people as future customers for everybody. And our salespeople are doing a really good job of it, and our management staff's doing a good job of it, and we're doing a good job of, marketing through that stuff. And it's working. Our Washington stores are just killing it with new riders up there too. And as you know, that's a great off-road market up there. So Arizona's a 4-wheel market, more side-by-sides and stuff like that, but we're putting kids on dirt bikes, and it's just great to see, people having fun riding around. There's a dirt lot by where Bill and I live in northwest Peoria, which is a suburb of Phoenix, and one Saturday I was driving home from work. There was 40 kids on little 50cc dirt bikes riding around an empty lot. So it's just having fun.
That 365-day-a-year riding season is why my GS is parked at my daughter's house in Tempe, Arizona. I live in Idaho, so we don't have that season.
A few other ways that we got new riders is also teaming up with local training groups. So we had Team Arizona and Ride Arizona, and we literally have them do their classes inside of our dealership. So that's like a first touch point on people that are interested in getting their motorcycle license, and it's also good for them to get into the dealerships because we're used to it. We've been in them our entire lives, but it can be overwhelming sometimes for the new rider. And then when they're on their breaks, they talk to our sales guys, they start to learn their staff, and it's just a good bridge of the gap, and it gets them into the store and gets like just low-key getting to know them. So,
how often do you have those classes at the dealership? Is that a monthly?
Once a week. Like
Every week.
When they're rolling, it's once a week. Yeah, and it changes seasonality-wise with time and heat and stuff like that, but yeah, they do it once a week.
And you're referring customers to the school, and they bring some up as well.
We refer the customers to the school, give outlets like on our website so they can sign up for their classes. They do their outreach as well. And then we incentivize them. If they're going to purchase their bike from us, new or used or whatever, we basically pay for the rider training with safety gear. We just swap it out. So it's a win-win.
All right, Bill, is all of this worth it? Because it seems a lot of extra work to help to bring in a new rider. Does the dealer have a role? Does your dealership have a role in bringing in new riders, or should it be left up to the riding schools, the manufacturers? How important is this to your dealership?
Well, last time I checked, none of those guys wrote checks to me. The customers do, and those are the people that I want to get in front of. We do a ton of off-site events that are totally unrelated to motorcycles, but prime example, we had a rig we built called Warhawk that was about a $90,000 X3. We had it at a Cars and Coffee event with a bunch of high-end cars. Guys are there in McLarens, they're there in all sorts of bad boy cars. One of those customers mentions it to a friend of mine who happens to take care of this guy's second home, which is a multi-million-dollar pad. Off of that guy, we've sold 5 cars that were all in excess of $80,000 each in builds because we were at that Cars and Coffee. The Defender Limited I sold you, I took my rig that looks just like that to Good Guys Car Show, and those guys are all gearheads, and tons of those guys have 350, 400 grand in a really cool old car that they don't drive. But they're also getting to be the age where they have grandkids and they want to have a good time, and a ton of them are snowbirds that live in Arizona in the winter. We started selling KOs out at these events, but we sold 12 of those Defenders, and those Defenders were over 60 grand a piece by being out at those shows and getting people to see them and going nuts over them.
So these are all new entrants. These are new riders that
Almost
get
all
referred.
of them are new.
Awesome.
So to elaborate what you were talking about, in my head, when I hear new rider, I'm thinking 7-year-old Jimmy and all that stuff, but we're introducing 65-year-old Bills and Harley riders and people that are, grandpas and all that stuff. So the new rider is from 7. I mean, the demographics are off the chart.
Well, a ton of them were baby boomers and that were riding motorcycles after their kids went off to college or moved out, and now they've got grandkids and they're looking for some way to share that power sports experience with their grandkids. I have KO and SSR at my Harley store in Bend, and they pumped out like 220 units between those two brands last year. those are all brand new riders, and a ton of them were grandpa came in to look at a bagger and ended up walking out with a bagger and a 70 quad for his grandkid.
What about electric vehicles? Has your dealerships dipped your toe in the water of electric vehicles? And is there a place? Does the electric product, do you see that bringing in new riders?
Yeah, I mean, we just signed up with actually a couple different electric companies that are going to be producing bikes, and we're on the ground floor. Do I see a reason for it? Yeah. Do I see that direction coming? Absolutely. I think you're obviously seeing Polaris back in the game with an EV unit. We know Can-Am's worked on a bunch of different EV units.
2026, yeah.
We have electric bicycles at the shop. I mean, I don't care what it has. As long as it's got a motor on it, I like it.
Matt, do you see, is there new positioning? Is your marketing, is it bringing in a different customer? Have you been able to tell yet?
It's more of the who we're targeting, even down to search terms, you know what I mean? Because, again, it's based on consumer experience, you know what I mean? And what is the consumer looking for? And that trends are going more in the electric avenue. I've got to rework what I'm doing to be able to pick up what they're searching and what they're doing on a regular basis, so getting in front of them. And I think it's going to be a younger demo for a little bit, because it's like the Tesla. Everybody wants a Tesla now, you know what I mean? Those things that are premium, but it's just everything's moving in that direction, and people are searching in different ways, so we just have to rework some things in the back end, but yeah, bring in a new customer.
We're going to find out real hard this next week when we're at Barrett-Jackson.
Oh, I know.
We've got electric bicycles there. We've got the Grunt there, plus a couple of cool side-by-sides that we built that are themed for going after that target audience.
There's a lot of really interesting and exciting things happening in the electric market that we've seen. I'm sure some of those people in the stands have seen. We just need to see them come to marketplace. And if it does, it's going to be a game changer.
Could be a game changer. It's at the beginning. The verdict is still out, but could be a big opportunity. That's great. You mentioned the e-bikes. Talk about the e-bikes. Is that just a totally different market, or do you see, what do you see there? Do you see that customer progressing into motorcycle? What's that?
E-bikes, it is a totally different market. Like, even when you're talking like bicycles, you know what I mean? So we dipped our toe in that water, and it is a new customer, you know what I mean? And adopting that to a power sports dealership, you've got to do some things behind the scenes, because people don't naturally think a power sports dealership is going to carry e-bikes and things like that. But you will see more and more when we do dealer visits, do recon and stuff like that. Slowly but surely, dealers are cropping it up in that arena to be able to facilitate that as well.
What manufacturers, what are some examples of things manufacturers are doing to help you bring in new customers, new entrants? Can you think of any examples of OEMs and programs they have to bring in a new rider?
Not currently. I think, unfortunately, because of what's going on in the world, most of these guys have really retracted. I mean, I love the Honda commercial that shows all the cars and the trucks and the generators and the motorcycles and ATVs and everything. But when it boils down to it, it's the people in this room that are responsible to get new customers through the door. The manufacturer's there to build stuff for us to market to these people, and then it's our job, once they're in the dealership, to sell them something.
That's great. So really, the burden for bringing in a new rider, for mentoring them and helping them get into it, it really falls on the shoulders of dealers. And without that, we're not going to see the new entrants. The success starts in the dealership.
Well, we didn't have any PW50s, TTR50s, TTR110s, CRF110s. We didn't have any of that stuff to sell. So you can either sit on your butt and mope about it and hope that sooner or later this stuff starts showing up, or go out and find another product line that does have the product in stock that you can sell. And, we did that with KO, and KO's in 5 of our 6 stores, and it was our #2 selling brand in 3 of those 5 stores for the year. And I know they're little, but I can tell you right now, they have a huge impact on your bottom line.
I have a feeling that booth's going to be super busy after this session.
Good, because they build some really, really good products that have filled a void that's been needed for a long, long time. And they are going to have a good experience owning that product, and they are going to continue down that path. I know of one kid that's already went from a 60 to a 90 to a 125 in less than 2 years.
Let's talk about, it really rests on the shoulders of dealers, this idea of how we build a community of new riders. I'd like to hear from each of you on sharing an example of how you not only bring in a new entrant, but how do you help facilitate riding so that the bike or the vehicle doesn't just get taken home, put in the garage, and forgotten about? How do you make sure that consumers are engaged with the product, that they're riding more?
We've got some different social sites out there, and we post some of our rides on it. We like to stay consistent. Granted, life happens and we change some things, but like second Sunday of a month, get consumers used to the habitual rides on a regular basis, and then we choose locations. We have some guys from the East Valley choose a location, set up a staging ground, take customers out, then do West Side. And it's nice because some of these guys that are actually taking them out on the ride are the same guys that actually help them customize their vehicle from start to finish. So now when they're out on the ride, they also get to show them, hey, I just bought this. How do I use it? You know what I mean? And so it's just walking that whole entire path to them. And the guys enjoy it. And it gets them in the realm that why they're in the industry and what they're doing. And they get to spend it now with their friends, previous customers, on these rides and taking them on their adventures that we go on a regular basis. And a lot of these guys that are new to the industry, half of the problem is they don't have the education of where to ride. Where can I actually take this vehicle out? I'm interested in it. I love this type of stuff. Where do I go? And then you deal with like the BLM, the Game and Fish, and it's like, okay, we're closing down roads, but it's because of lack of education a lot of times, and we help them go to the right areas and try to get them the right information and funnel out. We even have prepackaged things from AZ state parks that we hand, like our side-by-side guys and our dirt bike guys that are going on the single track, and then like side-by-side trails and stuff like that, of reference material of where they can find data, or here's maps for Tonto Forest or wherever else, and it gives them a better idea, and then they feel comfortable with, okay, yeah, this is terrain that I can go on, and like I said, we share some rides, and they have the ability to go on some rides with themselves as well.
So your frontline team has access to the reference materials that you're providing to all the customers so that they know where to ride.
Yep, we package stuff up from like working with the Game and Fish, just basically throwing around ideas and collecting their information in a bag, in a reusable bag. It's pretty cool. And again, when they purchase, hand it to them, and it's just a good resource.
Does your dealership have reference materials available? If the tools aren't available for that frontline team to mentor and to provide the education for these new entrants, for these new riders, then we run the risk of them not using the product, and then the lifetime value of that customer goes down. What is the formula? Brian, you're the numbers guy. How do you measure the value of a new customer? How do you measure the value of a new customer?
Well, obviously it's a lifetime experience. You hope to retain them for the whole life of the thing, but I mean, I can't remember the exact number. I think it's like $1,100 per year per customer for the life of the expectancy of that motorcycles, ATV, side-by-sides for them to go up through the ranks. So it's about $1,000, $1,100 a customer.
So over the lifetime of their
per year.
Per year,
yeah.
So the lifetime value of that customer is in the tens of thousands of dollars per customer. So acquiring a customer is hugely important.
Absolutely.
As you do a good job of retaining them. What other ways do you retain lifelong customers, Bill?
Obviously, selling your own maintenance programs is a really good start. You have the customer for at least 3 years. But ultimately, we don't want customers. We want ambassadors of our dealership. And if we're doing our job right, they're trying to bring everybody they know to their guy at our store. And they're building, a referral customer base. When I left Apache in 1993 to go to Metro Motorsports, I remember the owner asking me what employees I was going to take, and I looked him straight in the eye and I said, I'm not going to ask any of these people to go to work for me, but if these 5 guys call me, then I'll hire them. But what he didn't think about was the relationships that I'd established with those customers. They were buying from me. They weren't buying from Apache. And all those customers followed me and figured out where I was and stayed with me. And even when I left Ride Now, the stores were doing $15 million a year for 3 dealerships. We did $72 million last year out of those same 3 stores. It's called make your customers happy and make them want to do business with you.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit more. You mentioned the maintenance program. Can you just describe that, how you set your customers up when they buy with the maintenance program?
Well, we're menu selling. It's a lifestyle. They got to maintain their vehicle. They have to. This stuff's got to get done, and you can either make it affordable by raising their monthly payment $30, or you can make it a lot harder for them to afford and probably skip routine maintenances that they need to do when they're shelling out $400 or $500 on some of these rigs to get a maintenance done.
Matt, any other ideas that you could share with the dealers about how do you grow that? I mean, it's already to the point where, this is impressive. Did you say 75? 72 million. So Matt, how do you grow that and bring enough new entrants in that you can get that to 144 million to double again?
Well, hopefully if we do our job right and we earn customers and earn ambassadors, then the referrals come in and we nurture the current customer base the right way and keep putting information in front of them. And again, the referrals, and it is outreach. And you got to try different things all the time, because if you don't try new things, you don't know if it works or not. You know what I mean? So you can't be afraid of just stepping out of the comfort zone a little bit and giving things a shot. So you never know, and you got to be realistic with yourself. Is the ROI there or not? How much the staffing, the time involved to set things up, is it really worth it? And be realistic to yourself. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and you're always tweaking stuff on the back end as far as digital and shotgun approach. And nowadays you can pinpoint that customer, mirror that customer. There's so many things you can do and just kind of slowly but surely geo-target and widen that scope. So we get people constantly there, but again, it's making sure that nurture path keeps them coming back to our dealerships, even down to rewards programs. That's an old school thing, but it works. This slowly but surely, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to keep spinning here. It builds up to X, Y, Z. It's the easy things, but what are the small benefits that keep them in the family, keep them interested, and putting good content in front of them?
Consistent execution of the little things executed well makes a huge impact. Brian?
That's the way we're going to double that number, is just keep doing what we're doing. Don't lose sight of what we've been doing and doing right. And sometimes the business makes you lose sight of that, and we just can't do it.
Bill, you mentioned that you don't need a huge house or a yacht. Maybe you'd buy a golf course? Buy your own golf course?
No, memberships are too cheap.
You can go with the memberships, okay.
And I don't want to work at golf. I want to play golf. And I want to go fishing, and I want to go riding. And one of the things that I think has been really fun for us is doing all these rides is we're inviting customers that are potential that want to drive or ride a specific vehicle. You can go tell them to rent a side-by-side from a rental company, but if that's not the one they're looking at, they're not going to get the same experience. And then you may lose them. Maybe they like that one and they end up going and buying that. So we'll invite customers along, and we always, have Can-Am Maxes or Defenders Limiteds, and we're taking people out and having a good experience. And we've had a bunch of customers whose wives didn't want anything to do with dust and dirt. You put them in a limited, and you go out for a ride, and they're in.
In the RV industry, I want to touch on this, and you brought up the maintenance programs that you're selling. I think that's awesome. One of the challenges that the RV industry is facing, and our industry, I think, is facing this, maybe not to the degree yet, but you acquire a new Powersports customer, and then there's a challenge because there's not enough technicians, or there's a long wait to get your maintenance done, to have maintenance performed, or perform repairs. How does your dealership accommodate all of this new business? You have so many more units out there in your market area. How do you accommodate that growth from a service standpoint and retain those customers?
Well, Brian and I just spent an entire day at MMI interviewing graduates, and had 6 good interviews, and I think got 3 of them to work. And those were young people, don't know a bunch, but they were excited about being in the power sports business. They don't have bad habits. I personally don't want more than 1 A tech in any store that I have. I want 1 A, I want 2 Bs, and I'll take 4 Cs any day of the week, because their expectation level is much lower. They're learning, but it's simple. You give the C-Tech work, and he's not going to screw it up. You bring him up, you educate him. The guy that's our service manager at the Phoenix store started in the power sports business when he was 18 years old because he liked jet skis. And he's 37 years old now, and we had to talk him into being the manager.
It sounds like the Nash Technician Development Program, you're bringing new technicians in, actively recruiting them, and then helping them to become B technicians, and then eventually one of those A technicians at each dealership.
Well, yeah, our A-Tech John, for example, at our Phoenix store, honestly, I pay the guy an hourly rate instead of flat rate. Not the most financially smart thing to do for him personally, but the other 5 guys working around him can walk up and ask him a question at any time, get an answer. He'll drop what he's doing and go help them, and it's making those lower end guys much more efficient and much more productive, and that ends up being a win for us.
Well, this is tremendous. When you think about new entrants, it's not just the acquisition, but the retention, and it's really impressive to hear about the development program that you have to make sure that you have the team to support those customers long-term throughout the life of their ownership. Any last words that each of you would share? Just maybe a final comment on what do you feel like sets your dealership apart? What advice would you have for the dealers here today on cultivating a community of riders?
Be very, very attainable for the customer base. I mean, my phone number is on the side of my truck. It's on internet sites everywhere. It's on Facebook posts everywhere. It's on a video that we send out to our customers after we purchase. My phone never rings with problems. My phone only rings with people wanting to buy more stuff. And I know everybody, my wife in particular, was pretty adamant about the fact that that was a really bad idea, but that's maybe because I drive like an asshole once in a while. But I can live with that, because while I was driving up here the other day, we got in 2 Defender Limited Maxes, made 2 phone calls, 2 rigs gone. But those are customers of mine, and both of them are currently X3 owners, but their wife's getting sick and tired of the dust, the dirt, the cold weather, the hot weather, etc. And they need another toy because they know the only way they're going to get to go ride is by including her in the decisions.
It's awesome. Thank you, Brian.
There goes my demo, right?
Pretty much.
Again, what Mirrors Bill does is get out with your customers, young, old, and be part of what they do, and let them see what you do and be part of it outside of the 4 walls of the dealership. It's what I think's brought us a ton of success.
Take it home, Matt.
Yeah, and some of the things is it's basically listening to the customer and give them what they want and what is the best for them after listening to their conversation. And it's just an educated conversation and helping them down that path, and then that's how you keep them for the lifetime. Listen and communicate.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I know when I first reached out to Bill months ago about coming on stage here at AIMExpo Education, I presented this opportunity to him, and you know what he said? He said, hell no. And I'm so glad that I was able to get him to join us on stage with Brian and Matt. This has been a delight, I think a highlight of AIMExpo. Let's put our hands together for Nash Powersports team.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Nash Powersports. We appreciate all the work you've put into these sessions. Great information, and good luck with your continued success. This session was sponsored by eBay Motors. Visit their e-commerce center at booth number 3073. Next up, 5 o'clock, right here, the champion himself, Ricky Carmichael, presents Mind of a Champion. Followed by a meet and greet with Ricky at 6 o'clock, right here at the education stage. Thanks, everyone.